We're going to start
Do you
the
think New York
July
style
7th
enforces the old port?
Parking, Traffic, and Safety meeting, and we do a roll call.
It's Mary Lou McElwain,
Here.
Steve Pesci,
Here.
Mark Siracusa,
Here.
Harold Whitehouse,
Here.
Erica Wygonik is not, Police Captain Maloney,
Here.
Assistant Fire Chief Bill McQuillan,
Here.
Director Rice, no, Karen, no, and Chairman Bagley.
Here. All right, so first on the agenda is the financial report.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, after reviewing the financial report, I like what I'm seeing, and I move that we accept it as presented.
I'll second that.
I'll show it to you.
We'll just let
Give me a
Ben
second.
get it up on the screen first, and then we'll take a vote.
All right, there we go. All right. So I can speak to it. I mean, as you can see, we've got 1 month left in the year. We're at 109% of our budget, so we're doing better than our conservative budget for the year, so pleased to say that. And looking forward to a strong summer, even though we do have anticipation of loss of 300 spaces at Hanover. So good report.
Excellent. And I guess we can do just a regular vote because we have nobody online. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next on the agenda is public comment. So just come up to one of the microphones and speak, and give your name and address, please.
Good morning, Chairman.
Morning.
Good morning, Board and Committee. My name is Carl Deemer. I live at 337 Aldridge Road. And I've been before the committee before numerous times over the past 30 years. And I'm here today to discuss the ongoing need for some sort of follow-up to what we did last year on Aldridge Road at Boss and Aldridge, where the city had put a speed table in on that end. And welcome back, Eric. Good to see you again. The ongoing issue is on the other end of the street, and we haven't really addressed that. And sorry, Peter's not here because I think last meeting it was supposed to be in this spring and summer. We were supposed to put additional speed humps, bumps, or some sort of obstacle that would slow down the traffic on Aldridge Road. It is getting really bad. Over the past 5 years, I've noticed and observed pedestrian traffic has actually doubled on that road with the additional apartment buildings and things like that that have been put in the area over at the Hannaford Plaza, also at the West End. We have a lot of walkers, a lot of dogs, a lot of bikes, a lot of activity going on in that neighborhood because it's desirable to walk through. And people really enjoy it. However, we still have an issue with the speeding. You'll see people from out of state. You see people in state, really flying down the road. It's a real issue. On several occasions, I've had to go out in the street and try to slow people down. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's getting to a point where, sometimes we'll try to park cars out there to slow them down, and try to get people to, just to slow down completely. And you'll see coming over to the hill towards Islington Street at Sewell, they're doing anywhere between 35, 40, 45 miles an hour. Now, Eric, I know you've in the past done plenty of studies on the other end, but on our end, we haven't really, I don't think, done a due diligence on that end, as well as any signage or the speed signs on that end. I know we've had a permanent one down at down the other end of the Aldridge Road near the speed table, which has been pretty effective because I've observed a lot of people, they slow down, they see how fast they're going, and then they remain going slow to Middle Street, and that's been working. And I see that on the opposite end of it, though, going this way, they'll speed up the hill and then try to get into work or whatever they're trying to go. And the speed is very, very excessive. And we really haven't had any type of patrols on that end of the road, doing any type of work as far as speed enforcement. And I know it's hard to do at that end of the road, to put, a patrol there, but I would guarantee you, and I know Captain Maloney, and I've known Captain Maloney for a long time. He's made many, many, many attempts to try to offer support and patrols in that area to, slow down the speeders. But, again, I think that's been a temporary fix. It's been effective when you are there, but as soon as we're not there, it goes away. And I'm speaking for, instead of filling up this room with 15 or 20 neighbors, I just wanted to go ahead and let you know that everybody on that end of the road, all the way down halfway to the road, is just not happy about the speed situation going on there. I've presented surveys. I was with Councilor Lombardi last year, and we provided the names of all the people that were in support of doing something on that road, and everybody's still in that same support. I know that this goes back, it was voted on in 2014 to do something with that road completely, and it still hasn't been done. The project's not finished. So I'm asking the committee to, expedite correcting the situation on Alders Road. It needs to be taken care of. It's just, it's really out of control. I know the schools are out right now, but I can tell you even the buses have a hard time dropping those kids off. I know they drop off on Sewell, the corner of Sewell and Aldridge. And I have to see the parents, they actually guard the children emptying out of the bus to cut across Aldridge because they come over the hill so fast that they're afraid, one of the kids are going to get hit. So I just, we've talked about this for many, many, many years, going way back. And I remember this from, even 28 years ago, bringing this up. It's time to do something about it. I wish the committee would go ahead and take action on this and address it so we can finalize, have some finality in this situation, the problem that we have. So I appreciate your consideration and time. And I'm certainly willing to answer any questions you might have or things that I've experienced on Alders Road. I've lived there for, well over 36 years. So appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Are there any other public speakers?
We have no hands. Now we do.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Jim Lee. I live at 520 Sagamore Avenue in Portsmouth. Hi, Harold. Good to see you out.
Thank you.
So I'd like to
Mr.
bring to
Lee,
your...
could you
I'm sorry.
draw the microphone a little bit
Microphone,
closer?
okay.
Easier to
Is that,
hear you.
is that better?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to bring to your attention what, in my opinion, is a dangerous and ongoing situation on Miller Avenue caused by a couple of residents that insist on parking in the northbound lane of Miller Avenue close to the intersection of South Street. My wife has lived here for about 40 years, and she said that she's hardly ever seen anybody parked there except in the last couple of years. There's one particular household that has a little utility trailer that he routinely parks out there, and sometimes a van, and then there's one house past that where there's a car there pretty often over the weekend. But it blocks the northbound side of Miller Avenue, that close to the intersection. Cars are forced to drive out into the oncoming traffic lane, which is a hazard. It's also a hazard if the police and fire department or an ambulance has to go down there in an emergency situation. They have to make that detour and dodge ongoing traffic. I've actually talked to a policeman about that recently, and he said because there's a sign there that says no parking from here to corner, which is about 2 houses from the intersection, that was interpreted as giving the resident the right to park on the street there, which I think is is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Earlier this year, there was an accident there, and I was talking to the neighbor that was backing out of his driveway on the opposite side of the street. He said while his attention was focused on trying to maneuver around the trailer that was parked in the middle of the road, he didn't see an oncoming car and ran into it, or it ran into him. Somebody ran into anybody. But anyway, that was the contributing factor to an accident there. And I think for public safety, you should consider making that no parking there. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room in the driveway. The gentleman that has a trailer, I see it in the driveway in his yard multiple times, except when he chooses to put it out on the street. And then the adjoining house, there's a car that parks in the road there, sometimes on weekends with main license plates, I don't know. But again, in that driveway, all those houses there have huge driveways, so there's plenty of room for people to park there. So I would, ask you that you look into that situation and take some action if you think it's warranted. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Go ahead, Carl.
Chairman, I just have one more.
Yep, just to the microphone, please.
If you'll entertain me there. I just wanted to go ahead and see, if, as far as maybe a quick fix, it might be something Captain Maloney can help us out with, is to maybe dispatch a patrol for speed enforcement, somewhere in the 300, right around 300 Aldridge Road. Because you will find out very quickly when they're coming over the hill, if you park down our end, and you park right in front of like 306, facing the hill, you will keep an officer very, very busy with infractions, that'll happen, stuff like that. So that might be just an immediate thing, just to get everybody to be aware. And I know that the city's done a very good job of speed enforcement around the city in different roads, but we just haven't seen anybody, this summer. And I know that they're spread a little thin, but I appreciate anything maybe that could do. Yeah. All right?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carl. And I believe we have someone on Zoom, or
Did, but they put their hand back down. So.
if you're out there on Zoom and you'd like to speak, please just raise your virtual hand. Go ahead, Steve.
Sir, may I ask Jim a follow-up question to his comment?
Yes.
Jim, just so I understand, what you're suggesting is that we look at no parking on Miller Avenue consistently? Is that what you're...
That's the only place people park on Miller Avenue
Okay.
that I've observed. I've lived here about 11 years, so.
Okay.
And again, because it's so close to the intersection, it just creates a dangerous situation for everybody. And as I said, if police or fire have to make an emergency run through there going south of Miller Avenue, they have to drive around that trailer or
Okay.
whatever's in the middle of the road and face oncoming traffic, so.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'm going to close the public comment. And we don't have any presentations this month, and so we'll go on to new business. And Market Street, request for crosswalk between Deer Street and Hanover Street by business owner. Sample motion, move to refer to staff for evaluation and report back.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, if I could address it a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, so this request came in from the adjacent business owner there at Seabags. And so we put out a camera. We're starting to observe pedestrian crossings and traffic conditions in the area. So we'll continue to do that, and then we'll have a report back on it at the next meeting.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Okay. B, additional parking enforcement holiday for June 19th. Sample motion, move to approve Juneteenth as a parking enforcement holiday. And
Make a motion to approve this?
Second?
any discussion? And I'll just make a quick comment that, this was kind of my oversight. All of the federal holidays are parking enforcement holidays, which
Right.
means that you still technically have to pay, but there's going to be nobody there to write you a ticket. So it just makes sense that this is a new federal holiday, that it should also be included as one. And for anybody watching at home, you want to go to the website in the parking area, and it'll show you what exact day that falls on, because sometimes holidays
Yeah.
and the enforcement holiday don't line up perfectly.
We use the calendar day.
We use the calendar day?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a national holiday, isn't it, huh? It's been already designated as a national holiday?
Yes, last year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 6, Panaway Manor, request for speed hump by resident, sample motion, refer to staff for evaluation and report back. And I'll just mention, I did hear back from the person who requested this, and they said Colonial, the loop, but they didn't give a specific address, so somewhere along Colonial. We can get a motion to have staff look at that.
Are you making the motion?
I was hoping somebody,
I'll make the motion to refer to staff, evaluation, and report back.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? D, Daniel Street, request for 15-minute parking space in front of number 22 Daniel Street by business owner. Sample motion 1, move to approve 15-minute time restriction on existing parking space on the north side of the street in front of number 22 Daniel Street. Sample motion 2, move to eliminate 15-minute restriction on parking space on south side of Daniel Street, located between 142 and 160 feet west of Penn Hollow Street. So this was, I guess let's get the motion may change based on the discussion.
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Has anybody contacted the person that's going to be, the business that it's going to affect? Has anybody been talking to him?
The business has contacted us.
Okay, I see.
She's on today, too, so she's
Okay.
watching.
And so this is during the construction of Brick Market, I believe, the 15-minute parking spaces were encumbered, so nobody could use them. So we moved them to be in front of Moe's. Now they've been in front of Moe's for the last couple of years, and the people at Moe's, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a sandwich shop. They kind of enjoy having the 15-minute spaces because people come in to pick up sandwiches. So they're reluctant to have us move the space back. We would be moving only one of the two spaces. So perhaps a motion would be to have staff evaluate the usage of the parking spaces. Or back.
Do you want a motion before we have a discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think, well,
Second your motion.
I want to talk about this before making a motion, because I don't think we need to evaluate this. I think it's pretty clear from what the owner of Moe's has said, what their need is. So I don't know what my motion would be to keep, can I change the motion from what's on? Yeah, my motion would be to keep the 15-minute spaces that were in the temporary locations in front of Moe's and have just one 15-minute space at Brick Market, the building at Brick Market. So that's my motion.
Is this facility?
Let's get a second.
Okay,
Is there a second?
go ahead. What's your motion again?
My motion is to go down to that second space, the 15-minute spaces, the temporary locations, which has benefited Moe's during the pandemic, but they continue to be only a takeout. My motion is to keep the spaces in front of Moe's and have one 15-minute space at Brick Market.
To make this permanent, basically. Make this permanent.
Yes, exactly, the second suggestion.
Somebody will second for discussion. We can then discuss.
Has it been seconded? Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
Harold.
You know, this is altogether different than what we talked about or what the business talked about before. So I think they ought to be notified of what the motion is before we finally decide. They've been a part of Portsmouth for many, many years. And I do, you know, support them as a local business. And we got to be very careful what we do here. Yeah, that's how I feel.
If I may?
Yes.
She's watching today, so she's in this meeting. She's watching from Zoom.
if you have any comments you want to add, just raise your virtual hand. Or put something in the chat if the virtual hand's not working. In the meantime, we'll go with Steve.
So as I read the email from Cheryl, that the Mary Lou's motion to make the two in front of Mo's permanent and keep the one on the other side of the street permanent would be acceptable. So I just wondering if that is a correct read of your email, Cheryl.
So, here, I'll just hit that. Cheryl, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
This is fantastic. Okay, thank you for having me on the agenda. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to explain our situation. We've been, like many businesses, we've been exceptionally challenged with COVID-19, and those two 15-minute spots have become pretty much the only blessing out of the only thing that's come out of COVID-19 that's been a good thing. And then after COVID, we've been dealing with COVID-19, but I call it the 1-2 punch of COVID-19 and the brick market construction, which has wreaked more havoc on our entire the businesses on Daniel Street than COVID could have ever done. And so my request is to keep the two 15-minute spots in front of our shop for the following reasons. One, I don't believe that there are any other businesses that really benefit from those 15-minute spots. And the second reason is that our customers have really gotten used to it. It's been 2 years. We have a lot of we've been in business for 63 years, so we have a lot of elderly clientele that have been coming in for all those years. And we also have the opportunity to run sandwiches out to them, to run orders out to them. It's really helpful for women with children in their car. And we wouldn't be able to do that with those parking spots across the street. Because they're further down and people wouldn't be able to see their kids in their car, and I don't have the staff actually to be able to be peeking out the window trying to see whose car is there. So I have spoken to a few of my neighbors who, seem to have no issues with that. Not all of them. And I'm hoping that you can honor this request.
Could I just ask a question, Cheryl? Do you have a time frame when you think the 15 minutes is mostly utilized, or between the enforcement hours of 9 and 7 p.m.? Is there a time period where it's really used versus not really used so much?
For sure. I mean, definitely lunchtime. I would say, well, truthfully, we open at 9 and we close at 6. So 9 o'clock is great, helps with our delivery drivers. Believe it or not, during the summer, we're actually busy sometimes at 9 o'clock. I would say like 9 to 4 is really the time where those spaces are utilized the most.
Great, thank you. Mary Lou has a question.
Yes. I would suggest that we keep this parking with 2 spaces, 15-minute spaces in front of Mo's, for the reasons that the owner has suggested. As far as Brick Market goes, their entrance is right at the bend of Penhallow and Daniel. It's not where even a 15-minute parking space is suggested. I also think that River Run benefited from 15-minute parking spaces during the pandemic, but they don't necessarily need it now. But Mo's has just a takeout, and it's really to their advantage to continue with the 15-minute spaces. When we have the 15-minute spaces, are they kept 24 hours, or are there changes in that time frame that are...
No, those metered spaces are permanently 15 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Steve?
I just want to make sure we're clear that these are public spaces. They're not exclusive to the Mo's business, so other businesses will benefit as well. And I think it's a logical thing for that block, given the businesses to have several spaces, and I would support the motion.
Dan and Eric, I'd just like to hear what you have to say in relation to this.
Okay, yeah, we were looking, we have those 3 15-minute spaces out there right now, and in past years, we've monitored, we used to have more in this block, and we monitored them and saw that they weren't getting a lot of usage, they were less than half used. That's why we reduced the number. I think we used to have 5 or 6, and now it's down to the 3 that we have there now. Certainly, where they get distributed is up to where the businesses, where it makes most sense for the businesses. And what our primary factor is not having spaces sit empty and unused. We want them to be used. And if it's a 15-minute space that's going to sit empty for half the day or more, then we question whether or not that's the best use for the businesses in the area. Certainly, she can benefit, this business benefits from it, but is it used by all the businesses in the area? And we can monitor that with a camera. We can put that out there and take a look and see how they're being used. But, it certainly could stay as it is right now in the temporary location until we have some more data on that. We can come back another time. But
Would you consider a 30-day evaluation and report back at the next meeting for approval, or?
that would be enough time to.
I mean, I'm in favor right now, but if you go by what you just said,
Yeah.
would 30 days be reasonable?
You take that as a
I
friendly
think
amendment?
Is that an amendment?
Let's go as a friendly amendment, because I'm turning to Mary Lou and asking her that.
Well, personally, I think we don't need to study it. I think it's been this way during the temporary use, and we have other 15-minute spaces that we don't come up and question all the time. I would suggest that we look at our second suggestion online there and have the 15-minute spaces, 2 spaces in front of Mo's, 1 at Brick Market.
If I may respond?
Yes.
So the reason this discussion needs to take place is because we're out of ordinance right now.
Yeah.
So the top one there that shows 15-minute spaces, Chapter 7, is what the ordinance says. We've moved them temporarily, so when we go to move them permanently, this is why this discussion is
Yep.
necessary and not related to any of the other 15s
Right.
in town. The idea here is, how do we spread the population of these spaces to best benefit the businesses that are on the
Right.
street? And you've got in the third suggestion there, you would still keep the 1 in front of Mo's, the very first space, and you would put the 2 on the other side to service the businesses on that side of the street. That's the idea. However we want to decide it is fine with us. That's why this discussion needed to take
Right.
place, Mary Lou.
So this has to go in front of City Council to change the ordinance.
We'll make a recommendation after everything's completed construction-wise, where these 3 spaces finally land.
Right. Okay.
So I would, go ahead, Harold.
This issue was brought up under the brick building issue of parking by the city council. Was this, what we're talking about now, was it mentioned also?
No, so we asked for
Yeah.
the sidewalk extension permit
I see.
that there be no parking by contractors on Daniel or Penn Hollow,
It didn't include this?
but it didn't get into the
Okay, all right.
finer details.
All right, thank you.
Chair, Counselor, so how would you like to proceed as a counselor?
I-
We're going to make a recommendation, but how do you see us proceeding?
So I go to Mo's frequently, and I see the spaces utilized as they're intended. However, I go to Mo's around lunchtime, so my anecdotal data is during the peak. So I think, to Steve's point, where we don't want to be designating spaces to a business specifically, it should be that we get the data to make sure that it makes sense. And during the month of July should be a pretty busy month, so I think we'll get good data, but I don't want to set a precedent where we're making decisions that aren't based on data. So I think we should monitor the spaces, make sure they're being utilized, which I fully expect that they will be, and then come back to this in August and make it final that the 2 spaces stay in front of Mo's, unless something, highly unusual comes out of that data.
Is that approval by the staff? Yeah, okay,
That's fine with us, yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Mary Lou?
So your suggestion is to have 2 spaces in front of Mo's, one across the street, study this, come back
Which is
for
where
a
it is
decision.
now.
It's a friendly amendment onto.
Okay.
just a
There's
30-day.
already a camera up.
Good.
I think we know, or we have a good idea where this is going to turn out, but I think we should go through the
Right.
the
Yes.
process.
Go through the motion.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. Go through the motion. Yeah.
All right. So any further discussion?
No, it's our amendment, my friendly amendment.
Yeah, so I guess the motion is to study for a month and come back at the August meeting and make a final decision.
That's my understanding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so old business. Osprey Drive, report back on speed study, sample motion to place on file.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. We're having a hard time seconding things today. Did you notice
Yes,
that?
it's July, it's vacation week. Do you want to just give a brief rundown?
Yeah, a brief. We did go out there and measure speeds again on Osprey Drive. We measured them back in January, again in April. We saw that the speeds are still the same as in the charts in your packet, average of 23 and 85th of 27. Although the speed limit is posted at 15, it's not a true legal speed limit out there. It really would be 25. And when you consider that the true speed limit should be 25, then these average speeds and 85th percentile speeds are right in the range of that actual legal speed limit. So that's why we don't recommend any type of traffic calming measures, or we just would place this on file.
Okay, any discussion?
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair. So explain, when we put something on file, do we bring it back up again if residents or members of this committee want the issue brought up again? Or does it stay on file?
Well, I would think there need to be something that would change, that would need to bring it forward to this committee to make another evaluation of it.
Okay.
So if somebody came back in a year,
Yep.
we would have it on file, but we
Yep.
would take no action
Yep.
otherwise.
Yep, just an explanation again. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Steve?
I think this is a perfect example of one of the speed limits being posted as something that is neither enforceable nor legal and sets false expectations. So hence, back to the speed limit work that we're doing.
Right.
There's a tie-in here. So I appreciate the staff data and pointing that out.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Informational, monthly accident report from police.
We had 67 total crashes in the month of May. 34 of those 67 were reportable crashes, and we had no instances of motor vehicles with crashes between either bicycles or pedestrians.
Thank you. Parking enforcement holidays. I think we've already covered this, but maybe you want to go over it again, Ben?
Sure, this is just what's posted on the Park Portsmouth website. Again, we want to remind that it is an enforcement holiday, not a payment holiday. So I wanted to be clear what days these are going to be observed. Rather than have it change every year and confuse people if it's, say, the 4th is on a Sunday, but the federal holiday is like technically on a Monday. The division has made the decision to go ahead and use the actual calendar day for the enforcement holidays. So regardless of the day that it falls on, that's the day that we'll go ahead and have the enforcement holiday, as opposed to shifting it every year. So that's what this is about. It's posted on the website as such. And so it says fees not enforced on that particular day. And this, you can see on the fifth one down, I've put beginning June 19th, 2023 in anticipation that we would pass that today. So that's what's on the website right now.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify, the enforcement holiday is, there's nobody writing tickets that day. So if you don't pay for your parking, you're not going to get, let's say, a citation. The reason we don't program the meters to say that it's free parking, because it's not really free parking. It's kind of, if you're from out of town, you don't know that's an enforcement holiday. But if you're local, you do. So it's an advantage for
Or not.
locals. Well, locals that are paying attention. And the other thing is if you forget that it's an enforcement holiday and you pay, you can't get a refund because you were supposed to pay, so there's nothing to refund. So just to kind of clear up the wording and why it is the way it is.
I don't think a taxpayer has turned around to a tourist and said, please don't, you don't have to pay today.
Right.
Right. Harold?
Yeah, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
awfully nice. I won't.
Mr. Chairman, I see on the listing of the holidays, and
You're
we
too
just
nice.
Approved of June 10th parking enforcement, and I see on the listing here, it doesn't begin until June 19th of 2023.
Right, because the 22nd, or this year's has already passed. We're in
It
July.
already happened.
Okay,
And
all
we
right.
just approved it today,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I see, all right.
We dropped the ball
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I misunderstood when it was enforced.
Steve?
Yeah.
For the record, I have let tourists know that they don't have to pay on parking enforcement holidays because that's the kind of person I am. But I just want to also be clear that it's a parking meter fee, not enforced. The time limits.
Where applicable, time limits are still enforced.
Thank you.
Oops, my iPad is restarting, but I think we have a construction update next on the agenda.
Informational letter at the end of your packet. If anyone came up South Street, you've seen that that's getting paved. We'll have the final layer coming up soon. And Marcy Street, a lot of been work out there in the gas line work, so that'll be get resurfaced as well when that work is done, together with Newcastle Avenue, same project. And the Kate and Bartlett Street intersection is underway for its final configuration. There was a gas line that needs to be relocated first, and that's what's been going on this week. So once the gas line is moved, then the rest of the work will take place.
All right.
A lot going on.
Oh,
It's been
yeah.
a good summer for all this construction, actually, weather-wise.
This miscellaneous or new construction report?
It's to this report.
Okay.
I just want to, I'm so happy to see the Kate Bartlett Street intersection underway. And it's really noticeable lately how many more pedestrians are using that intersection. So I would just ask Public Works, as much as possible, if you could do some, I don't know, construction signage or something, keep some orange barrels, whatever, out there to assist the pedestrians while the intersection's being finalized. I've seen some pedestrians kind of not know where to walk, what to do with the construction, so anything we can do to help them
Okay.
during the interim would be really appreciated.
All right, so miscellaneous?
Oh, I do have a miscellaneous. The large tour buses that are coming through Portsmouth, I guess this is addressed to Eric. I've had two incidents in the past couple of weeks. One came from State Street to Atkinson and came down Atkinson, and two cars had to back up to court because it had a lot of difficulty turning that bend. Second time was on Marcy Street, and it came down. I was coming up from Pleasant, and after the Children's Museum, it gets really tight there, and that tour bus took over both lanes. So we had to back up again down to Pleasant. So I'm wondering if there are restrictions on the size of tour buses specifically. We can't restrict construction trucks usually, except for the wastewater treatment plant. But these buses that come through the narrow spaces of town really affect other traffic.
Yeah. I know there is a restriction in Chapter 7 on buses. I think it's Siri Street. They're not allowed on Siri Street. But I think that's the only street where it's specifically called out in Chapter 7 of the ordinances to ban bus traffic.
Is this something we can look at? Because I think that bus turning onto Atkinson was rather a shock.
Yeah, I would say so. I
And
mean,
then it had trouble turning left on Court also.
oh, yeah. Yep.
So, you know,
That's something that this committee could take up if it wanted to make that recommendation for
Yes.
other streets to have exclusions like
Yes.
that.
okay,
And
can
then
we
we-
bring that up?
Yeah,
That
we
on
can
the
make that an
agenda?
agenda item to have
Good.
staff look at that.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
And then I'll just speak quickly to the public commenters. I believe Aldrich, and Peter Rice isn't here today, there was a drainage issue with the location of the second speed hump, and that's why it hasn't moved forward. I don't know the logistics of that.
Yep.
I do also just want to caution that whoever is the person who gets the speed hump directly in front of their house, we tend to get reports of a lot of noise is created by trailers and trucks and stuff going over the speed hump. So they do a good job slowing down traffic in some cases, but they don't come without, let's say, a penalty. But maybe we can get a report at a future meeting where we stand on the second half of the Aldrich project. And then to speak to Miller, I used to live on Miller Avenue, and I was always surprised by the cars that would park there. I think there's also a camper van that often parks up near the south intersection. I think it's technically legal there. I don't know if it's something that we should have staff look at and make sure is a smart idea. My seat of the pants opinion is it's not an ideal spot for cars to be parked, but I'd much rather hear from the experts on that.
Yeah. The way parking is always allowed on any street unless it's prohibited. So unless there's a sign out there saying no parking, then they can do it. But now, with recent reconfigurations of streets with curbing and narrowing, it may be a different situation. So it could need another look at that.
Or maybe we just, instead of 20 feet, it's 40 feet. I don't even know if we have that capability, but we could push it a little away from the intersection.
Yep. This committee has that ability to.
Just come up to the mic if you want.
There's actually currently a sign there that says no parking. I'm not sure exactly the wording, but the gist of it says no parking beyond this sign. So the most egregious offender there parks just on the other side of the sign. So again, that's a really unsafe situation in my opinion, and I don't know if taking the sign down might give him a hint or whatever, but it's the same person about 90% of the time, and then the person next door with the occasional visitor parks and blocks the street there also. So that's just to
Yeah, I think
clarify.
what we would look at is maybe moving the sign.
Yeah, about
Back.
two blocks that way.
Yeah, so maybe not that far, but yeah, a little away from the
Away from the
intersection.
intersection. All right,
Yeah.
thank you. So-
Yeah, because per state law and city ordinance, there's no parking within 20 feet of any corner. And then this committee can make changes to that to increase that distance if desired.
Mr. Chair. if I
Captain.
may. We're familiar with this situation out there. This has been going on probably about 2 to 3 years. I've been out there personally myself and spoken to the homeowner. It is legal where the trailer is being parked. It's being parked there intentionally most times in an effort to slow traffic down. In order to help alleviate that, we've put our signboards out there. We had a mobile speed trailer out there a week ago on Miller Ave, but the placement of that trailer is in a legal spot, and it is being done in an effort to slow traffic by the homeowner. But I do also agree that it's worth looking at possibly restricting that space due to the reasons mentioned. And this is not the first time we've dealt with this specific parking spot at that specific intersection.
All right, thanks for that feedback. Mary Lou?
Yes, I think we should welcome Assistant Fire Chief Bill McQuillan.
Yeah.
I am a McQuillan, except I'm A.N. McQuillan.
Yeah.
And with the congratulations as well.
Yes, welcome.
Head in the right direction.
Thank you. Looking forward to being here.
Great.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on the miscellaneous?
Yes.
Yeah. Every year, we talk about limiting the amount of meetings during the summer, but I think we have a lot on the plate. I hope we continue during the summer, really, for August and September.
This is my first year, so I was not familiar with that. But the summer months can be tough because people are on vacation. But I think we did pretty well today with a
Yeah.
less than full crew. So I anticipate we'll have a meeting in August.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Anything further, or we're way ahead of schedule?
That's good.
Move to adjourn?
Yes.
For adjourn. This is
Second.
This is the benefit of this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We have a light load in the
Thank you, Portsmouth.